Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Notre Dame 23, Texas A&M 13. Huge, monumental win for Marcus Freeman. Very, very important win for him. It sets up his program to really make a run at things now. I think a lot of people looked at this game as if Notre Dame can get past this one, they've got a really good shot to make a big run as a playoff team in 2024. They did so. They weathered the storm. They weathered the fans. They weathered the weather. They weathered everything they needed to weather, Jamie, and they came out with the win. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything we saw. We're going to get to comments in the chat. People are very, very excited. I think it was tenuous there, right? And I just kept thinking to myself, man, I do not want to have another night like we did against Ohio State, because that was tough. But that is not what we have going on. Before I get to anything else, Steve Miller dropping us the big time super chat, courtesy of the money line. Let's go, Irish. Tough fought win. Lots to clean up, but lots to work with. Defense is a beautiful thing to watch. Absolutely, absolutely. So many positives from today. And it's great to talk about those positives in the wake of a victory. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe to this channel. Only 60% of the people who listen to this show are subscribed to the show. Subscribe to the show. So like this video. Hit the notification bell soon, whatever it is. We're going to go live. Links to the podcast are going to be in the description below. And as always, Jamie, this show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. It is game time. Game time came and went, and ESQ has finally restocked all of their bamboo dress shirts. You've seen them on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, and made from proprietary fabric that's cooler and softer than cotton. It's the best shirt for any occasion. Go to esqclothing.com and use ISD15 to get 15% off your order. Jamie, I have a question for you. How poetic was it that the line, the much maligned line, everyone was talking about, they are going to grind Anthony Knapp to dust. Nick Scorton is going to destroy him. The two Shamars are going to destroy the interior. 6 combined starts. How do they do it? And they are the ones who seal the game for Notre Dame. Notre Dame goes down and scores the game-winning touchdown on the ground when Texas A&M knew they were going to. Texas A&M knew that they were going to be running the ball. They went down and did it. How poetic was that for Notre Dame's offensive line in this one, Jamie?
I would say pretty poetic. I would say that was. It said a lot about those guys. By the way, now up to 11 career starts. Almost double their career starts in that game. Man, you got to be so impressed. I was so impressed with Knapp and Pendleton in this game, and I know they had some bad moments, but that was going to happen.
That was expected. Everyone knew that was
going to happen. There was going to be, like, you're going against a Mike Elko defense. They were running sims. They're running different pressures. Obviously confuse them at some points. I'm not saying Nick Scorton's a great player, but like Nick Scorton wasn't a game wrecker in this game. Like he had a couple really big plays, but he didn't dominate the game like everybody thought. Like he's going to go up against Anthony Knapp and dominate the game. He had the great spin move. He had the one play where he knocked it down at the line of scrimmage, but there really wasn't too much else of that in the game. And a lot of that was scheme. Yes. First of all, too, kudos, Mike Denbrock, because I know people were watching that game and I knew people would get frustrated with watching the game, but it's how the game had to be called.
Yeah.
Yes, you can pick out plays here and there and say, man, I wish he didn't do this. I wish he called this instead. There was all those different things, but you have to consider, one, Mitchell Evans didn't even really play in this game.
Mitchell Evans clearly not healthy. I mean, he might have had
not ready to go.
He might have snaps, Jamie. He just was not a factor in this game. Please continue.
Yeah. And so basically one of your, like, he would have been a go-to weapon in this game. Would have absolutely been a go-to weapon in this game. And he was obviously not available to be that. Notre Dame knew they had to run the ball in order to win the game, and then did.
Yeah.
It's against a team that was selling out to play the run. They were blitzing their safeties like left and right. Like, it was over and over and over again. They kept doing it. And I mean, obviously those led to the big runs. Notre Dame got them in the one when they had the too high look on Jadarian Price.
Mm-hmm.
Shame that the other Price big run got taken off the board too, right?
Which was not great. Not a good holding call there. Continue.
No, I mean, definitely not one that usually gets called.
Right.
I mean, what a shock the refs weren't good in this game, but we can get into some of the controversial stuff later. But obviously, you're not going to get all the calls going your way on the road. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's usually never going to be a fair game in Notre Dame's favor when that happens. But to be able to like overcome all of this and like the limitations of what they had, to be able to get plays from obviously Jeremiah Love was just massive in this game, and Bo Collins was massive in this game. Didn't love the shoving the guy in the back after. I'm shocked
that was
unhinged.
That was crazy. I could not believe he did. I could not believe he didn't get called. That was one of the more unhinged things like I've really ever seen on a field, just because it was so obviously going to be a penalty and they didn't call it, especially with the way the game was called to that point. Can't believe it wasn't a penalty. He made a great play.
Made a great play, but that was a stupid reaction.
And like it was very bad reaction, but that is the back shoulder throw that I feel like Notre Dame's been missing since like Chase Claypool was on the team, right? They've been able to hit. They went over the top to Kevin Austin a few times, but that back shoulder throw they have not been able to hit, and they hit it in a big moment there. That was a big play by Collins. He had a great game. I wanted to make a point on that. I can't believe he didn't get called for a penalty on that. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just posting. Because someone I saw mentioned that it wasn't on IC's board, so I just threw up the postgame link to the postgame there.
Got it.
But yeah, like that was shocking. So I guess you can look at it from that perspective. Like that could have obviously went in their way. Like, but in these games when you're playing on the road in that atmosphere, against when these guys are playing like their first college football ever, I would say Emil Wagner did a pretty good job in this game too. His first start,
yes,
as well. And man, I was blown away by the job that those guys did overall in the game, considering, because I mean, anyone could say, look at that. Just throw on the tape of the early 2021 season, and that'll show you what a bad line looks like at the beginning of the season, an overwhelmed line. And it's not like this line didn't have bad moments, but the good kind of outweighed it, really. And I mean, a lot of it was how they called the game. And obviously, Riley Leonard, his ability to run was massive in this game, too. Man, I couldn't have been more impressed with kind of to score 23 points in this game with how the flow of the game was going. Like, was just, I think it was actually an outstanding job. And this is the game too, where you look back in it and you look at Jared Parker last year and you say, man, you didn't get that out of Parker, like this kind of game, like where he's calling this, and you got to tip your cap to Mike Denbrock.
Yeah, I mean, a lot shined through there, just in terms of like figuring out what was available to him and then going to it. I want to highlight the rushing stats for Notre Dame. So net rushing 198 yards. So that's net without losses, like just yards gained, 214 yards, 5.8 yards per carry for Notre Dame. Like gosh, those are winning numbers. If you know that's what it's going to be going into the game, you know, like you got to feel really good about Notre Dame winning the game in that spot. Let's go through the individuals here on for the rushing yards. 14 carries for 91 yards for Jeremiah Love. Riley Leonard, 12 carries, 63 yards, 8 carries for 40 and 44 yards for Johnny Price. It was really just the one, and the other one that was called back. So he had 47, along of 47, ended up with 44, right? So he had a whole bunch of lost yardage runs there. But he also had the one, like we mentioned, just got called back. So he had a couple of explosives there. Jeremiah Love was huge in this game. And so just, you know, when people talk about matchups in these games, and it's just everything you heard going into this game was about Notre Dame's offensive line versus their defensive line. That was the only thing that was really talked about. I mean, when people said, you know, Notre Dame's going to lose this game, it's going to be because of this reason. And I felt like that was, for a lot of people, that was like the only reason that mattered. It was the only matchup that mattered. And it obviously wasn't the case. But I always thought to myself, well, what if those guys come up with a performance? You know, what if they just come out there and play? And I, you know, look, like you said, Knapp and Pendleton had some rough moments. Ashton Craig in the beginning of the game, the snapping was not good. I mean, for the first couple drives there, he couldn't snap the ball. He had a couple false starts. The penalties were a big problem for Notre Dame overall. But look, they came up with a performance when they needed to. And look, you got to give those guys a ton of credit. You have to give Joe Rudolph a ton of
much credit
for going with those two players, Pendleton specifically, Knapp specifically. Like, that is, you know, I'm going with Ian Book after we went 3-0 type stuff. I mean, that is that is a forward-looking call. That is, you know, taking a risk. Everyone's talking about the 6 starts. He played the better lineman in this game, and it came through for them, and that's a really good job. I want to bring up some super chats from CFB Hertz. Great super chat from him. Thank you very much. The Denbrock difference. We'll get into more of that in just one second, because he really did make a difference in this game. There were a lot of things that I didn't like that he did, but there were also some things that, like, he found matchups, and he did some things that really gave Notre Dame the opportunity. I thought what he was trying to do was correct most of the time. It was just that the execution level wasn't really there. We'll get into that as well. And the stubborn Mick, also with a super chat. Thank you very much. How about the difference in confidence in Freeman in just 2 years, night and day? So I want to kind of build off this as we kind of get going here. How big is this for Marcus Freeman and his kind of tenure at Notre Dame? I feel like, man, if this doesn't go right for him, I feel like people would kind of start to lose face. I know I would have. I would have been. You can't just keep coming up short in these moments over and over again. You just can't. And there are a lot of things about this program that are so much better than they have been. But more important than anything else are wins and losses. He needed to win this game. He needed to win a game in this environment with this magnitude. Everyone picking against him. Saban picked against him, right? You know, a lot of people that Notre Dame went from, you know, it went from a pick'em game to Notre Dame, you know, 3-point dog. They came out and won the game. How big of a game do you think this was for Marcus Freeman and his kind of tenure at Notre Dame moving forward?
I think it was massive. And I want to point out the play that, you know, I mean, both of those 4th down attempts to start the third quarter.
Yes.
And I know those were easy to pick out and just say, like, what is he doing here? Like, I mean, whatever. We had people in our chat who were going nuts on it, obviously. But when it is very much in the Dan Campbell mold of, like, hey, I'm believing in you. We're getting this. Like, it's that aggression, that level. First of all, obviously, I can't even believe that was not overturned.
I mean, I can believe it just because on spots. I don't want to get into it too much.
It was like clear.
They ran in and they gave it to him, and then they put it down, and it's like a half yard from where they ran in from.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. Anyway, go ahead.
But that kind of confidence to do that, and then that the defense is like, come on, and they're like, basically, I got your back, coach. Like that was huge. And I think that's people like Marcus Freeman. Obviously, Notre Dame fans are rooting for Marcus Freeman. The players like Marcus Freeman. They want to play for him. There's a reason why this guy is able to attract recruits. There's a reason why dudes who played in the NFL, dudes who played at Notre Dame before are like, yeah, I want to send my kid there to play. Like, there's a reason for that, right? And it is true that if all of a sudden he lost this game, he would have lost. Some of that is going to go away because there also isn't another opportunity really this year for them to say, hey, we went on the road against this opponent and won this game and blah, blah, blah. Like, there isn't another chance this year. So this game really did. It sucks because it's the first game of the season, but it meant that much to him and really to the program.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know, like if you're someone too, like who is invested in Notre Dame, I don't know how any fan, any recruit, any, person who is giving money to the NIL collective or whatever, that you aren't like, heck yeah, that's what this is about. That's what this is about. That's what I wanted out of like this is this kind of thing. And especially given like kind of the circumstances where the matchup could have gone really, really bad. And I think this time too, we almost need to transition because the defense, and it's not a surprise to me or you. We knew that they were going to come out, and like I knew A&M was going to be miserable. I mean, I don't want to just. I'm not going to rag on Connor Wigman because Wigman is how you pronounce it. I found out, so it's Wigman, but Wigman, he was getting a ton of hype for this game, and guess what? He still might be a first rounder. That still might happen because guess what? Caleb Williams was miserable.
Notre Dame does this to everyone. We talked about it, and we talked about it in the preview. They do this to every quarterback. It's all of them. So I don't know why people thought, oh, he's going to come in. Like, this isn't Miami.
No,
it isn't. Or at least Miami of 20. Miami might be really good. But, like, it's not Miami of 2023. It isn't. No. And it's not whatever FCS school they're playing. Like, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. And, look, Carter came on the show, and he said there's concerns about this team's skill guys for Texas A&M. He said it, and it showed, right? And look, if you've got shaky skill guys against this defense, they're gonna eat you up. And I gotta say, Jamie, some of the new guys, Drake Bowen,
big time
beast. I mean, this is like a Matt Freeman call. He did a great job. Adon Schuler, look, he missed the one on the screen. I am so encouraged by the way he played. Yeah. I can completely, because Rod Hurd made a good play in this game as well.
Rod Hurd made a really good play in this game.
Adon Schuler, you can see why he won this job. He was playing with passion. He was playing with urgency, with confidence. I mean, look, they thought they had him on the fake bubble. Run the go with the tight end. People fall for that all the time. Adon Schuler does not fall for it. He plays the position. So it's like when you are that far into your role where it's like, I'm going to be the guy who comes up and thumps you, and I'm also going to be the guy who is disciplined and playing my spot. That's big time from him. Christian Gray, absolute star. He is going to follow in Ben Morrison's footsteps. Great player. What did they do, Jamie? You're speaking of the defense. What did Al Golden do in this game? Because I know you have a really good eye for it. What did he do to confuse Wegman as much as they did and give them as many problems as they did?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of the stuff they did was they pressured the whole game.
Yes, and he's going to do it.
He's going to do it. And that's one of those things too, where we talk about where, because Elko, they do a ton of exotic stuff on third down too, right? And their offensive line, they have a lot of guys who have experience. And yes, it's new guys in new positions, and they had some injuries during the game too, which I think was definitely a factor for them.
Definitely.
But, they had all these things where it was like Wigan could never get comfortable the whole game. There was like, I don't know how many dropbacks that he had where he was just there. It was like basically only those ones where he threw up the free plays. Like that's that I could recall off the top of my head where I was like, oh, he had it where it was either not like quick game or something else. And he was actually kind of lucky to only have 2 picks in the game because he was great at getting rid of the football, but he put it up for grabs. And that's something that was leading up to the game. And I'll shout out like Clark Brooks from On 3 who put this out, that he is what had the highest rate out of any SEC quarterback in the last 2 years. Basically 25%, 24.7% of his passes are uncontested targets. And that's because, instead of his way of like escaping pressure is I'm getting rid of the football here. But those weren't good throws. Like they're not, and a lot of them weren't good decisions, right? It's almost like you're better off throwing it into the stands than some of those throws that he made, right? And he only threw for 100 yards in the game, right? Like
not it.
Yeah, 40% completions. And he just never had any kind of comfort level the whole game. And even when on the quick game stuff, he never seemed comfortable. And there's the thing too with he obviously puked a couple times during the game. And I don't know if that was something he was dealing with. Could have been, right?
I mean, he got hit also like before that. He was on the goal line play. So that might have been
that too. Yeah. That might have been something to do with it. Good point. But he just there was nothing there. Any type of, Notre Dame always has, and Al Golden, they always have a plan for, okay, you're going to run this. This is they have, there was that one play where it was like early on and Osbury was out there and they were like running around. That's the only play all game that you ever saw anyone was like unsure of anything during the whole game. And there was just nowhere for him. He just didn't have any time to breathe. That it's like, and if you're getting pressured that much, you're seeing ghosts even when it's not coming. And I think that had a ton to do with that part of the game. And then, and normally you're just thinking like how, they pointed out the last play of the game, which was actually, I'll say this too, like, because usually I'm not the biggest fan of Herbie and Fowler on the call. I thought they were better in this game, but that was good kind of pointing out. It was like they're running that slot fade thinking they're going to rub out and that's going to take it. But it's like Notre Dame knew that had to have obviously been like a Klein staple that they're like, I'm ready for this. Like, and it's just outstanding. But that's why if you watch Notre Dame in practice, that's what they are. And that's why it's like impossible to practice against the starting defense because they are that on point all the time. And, they really don't, and they don't load up the box in terms they basically dare you to run. And, they had the one drive where they did run it well. Right.
Yeah.
But if you look at the game, you would say, man, Le'Veon Moss must have had a monster game. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry.
I think people they see they see any team like run for a consecutive first downs against Notre Dame. It's like Notre Dame's getting run over because it's so rare. It just doesn't happen. So it's like just a little bit of rushing yardage against them. And people, and everyone's just like they're getting destroyed. And it's like, well, they do have Anye and Heinisch in the game. But then like later on in the game, I pointed it out like in our group text, like, gosh, it's a huge moment. And they have Heinisch and Anye out there, but then Heinisch went and made a play, so sometimes you play those guys and they make plays and other times like it costs you, right? But they continue to throw those guys out there and it's to Notre Dame's benefit. I do have to shout out Evan Gallo. This is my nephew, Jamie. My nephew. He's in the 5th grade. Ev,
right.
I want to shout him out. He's a good guy. He's
all right, Evan.
He had his first flag football game last night. They had a nice victory. He also had an interception in the game, so he's following in the footsteps of this family, with the defensive back genes. So shout out to you, Ev. You are the man. I just want to point out, so Jack Kaiser leads the team in tackles with 8. Jordan Botelho was 6.
He was great.
And one of the things that really stuck out to me is Max Bulla, man of his word. He played all of these linebackers, and they all played a ton of snaps. I mean, they all got out there a bunch.
And they were good. There wasn't any one of them who was bad.
There wasn't anyone who did anything just that was glaringly why is he in the game? When you say you're going to do it and then you go and do it, that's a big, big deal for your defense. And look, again, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't keep talking about the things that we said on the pregame show or the previews. But like we said, the one unit that everyone kind of knows what you're gonna get is Notre Dame's defense. Yeah. That is the one unit that is kind of a known in this game, and they were the most solid unit on the field for both teams. Right? It was Notre Dame's defense and their organization, and they just make it extremely hard for you. Xavier Watts gets a pick. I do have to point out one other thing. We did get another super chat from Justin Knox. This was a very significant win, no matter how it looked. So it's a typo, but it's a huge win. I don't think at this point, I don't think anyone cares what this.
Oh, no one cares.
Box score says anything. Notre Dame went out there and they did the thing. I interrupted you. What were you about to say, Jamie?
Well, I wanted to point out too that 0 explosives for Texas A&M.
Yes.
Not one explosive the whole game. They did not have a play from scrimmage over 20 yards in the game. Not one. That's generally unheard of in any game.
Yeah.
And to do that, obviously, because there's always, especially in the first game of the season, while you are the road team, that is crazy. And yes, I understand they are looking they have some questions, their skill position. They still got plenty of speed. They still got plenty of speed. They ran, here's a perfect example of why it's so hard to get over on Notre Dame's defense. They run the play. It's the influence block where they're running the fake counter tray the one way.
Yeah.
They see that. That sucks in linebacker, safe, almost everyone, because your keys, that's what it says. You're like, man, I got to get downhill. I got to run that way. Jack Kaiser makes the tackle on that jet sweep going back the other way. 8-yard gain. And you might be like, oh, 8-yard gain. They call that play because it's supposed to be a touchdown play. That is supposed to be a 40-yard. That is supposed to be a big play because it's supposed to get everybody going in the wrong direction. I mean, I've seen Notre Dame call plays like that, and it hits big all the time. Mm-hmm. So but it just shows you too, and maybe if Jack Kaiser wasn't on the field, maybe it is different or whatever. So I want to give props to Jack Kaiser too, because that was a huge, that's a veteran play that you need to make that type of play in order to, to grind out drives all the time is so hard in football, in general. Yes. And that's what they were forced to do all the time.
That's why the explosive that Notre Dame got from Price is such a big deal, because it just you don't have to work anymore, right? Anytime someone runs a guy down inside the 10 or whatever, and it ends up being they have to kick a field goal or something to that effect. That's why it matters, because it's like you said, it's just so hard to execute against a really good defense like this. That's why it's important to hit explosives. That's why we talk about it as often as we do. Evan continues to say he subscribed, he liked, and he's hit the notification bell. And you should do that too if you haven't done so already. Please like this channel. Please subscribe to our channel. Please hit the notification bell so as we are going live. Jamie, let's just kind of go over the flow of the game. What did you make of, I guess, some of the struggles of of Notre Dame in the beginning. Obviously, and I'm talking just offensively here. I think that this is just my opinion watching. I'm curious to see what kind of you thought of it. Is, obviously A&M's giving them a lot of trouble, right? They're giving them problems that they need to solve, and I think everyone kind of expected that. To me, I felt like, man, like there were a lot more execution errors on the kind of the outside of like the offensive line that I thought it was a concern of mine, just like all those wide receivers and how many they want to play. I just feel like, man, like you got to get the ones that you like and you got to go with the cohesive ones, right? And I just felt like there was so much off. Like I didn't think like on a lot of those, like a lot of people were upset about Riley Leonard's accuracy. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. On those slot fades, I felt like, man, I just feel like they're not running these where I feel like they need to be.
100% agree.
Okay, like especially the Love one on the one in the end zone. I was like, you're running that to a place where it's like they're never throwing it there. No. Like you need to get to the space. So I just thought like so much of Notre Dame's problems in the passing game had to do with, timing and being in the right spot and, ball placement. Because like if you don't know where the wide receiver is going to be, the ball placement is going to be very good, So I thought that was kind of what I thought. And I'm just kind of curious to get your thoughts on kind of the struggles, not so much with the running game and things of that nature. Because like we get into that, they had a hard time in the game, the offensive line. They obviously did some very good things. Yeah. But what were you seeing on the outside that was causing Notre Dame so many problems early?
Well, and I think you and I both kind of pointed out on Twitter that like, first of all, great job of Ashton Craig getting out on some of those screens. Like, wow, he was really getting out there. But the receivers are running it poorly. Yeah. Like they weren't waiting for the blocks, and even the very first play of the game, Jeremiah Love, obviously the guy had a great game. I'm not saying anything he didn't have. He had an awesome game. But the very first play of the game, Greathouse has the block. And he bounces it out into the guy like that. He needed to, if he cut that up, it was going for something big. And the same thing with that very first Bo Collins, it ends up, they get a field goal out of the drive. It's not like it's anything bad or whatever, but as you pointed out, if he ran that inside, it's probably a touchdown. And it just, it's so natural for those guys to just want to like, oh, I think I have space out here. Yeah. But that wasn't the case, right? It obviously was not the case. And then you also forget that like they want you to run it out there because as a DB, like sideline is your friend. That's another defender. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, right? So really like there was just like that kind of stuff. Like the Jaden Thomas, like the almost pick. That was on Thomas. Like
yes, I pointed it out. Yes, he cannot just stand there
to the football. That was 100% on him, and also too for a guy who's like the vet in the room, like it is inexcusable. Like that could have been a backbreaker, for Notre Dame, and that wasn't like it wasn't a bad ball. He didn't throw that too far inside,
right? He threw it right to his chest. He threw it to his chest. You have to come back to that. You can't just sit there because it's a long throw. It's to the field. Like they're always breaking on that. That's oh boy. I'm so glad when we're simpatico on things like this because I feel like I don't want to get too like emotional about the game. Just in like when you're watching it, you feel like you have a read on it. When we're in simpatico, I feel good about that. So to me, that's like, it's like good news in that sense, because it's not that they were bad. It's just that they weren't sharp, they weren't, no one was really in sync here. And I think that also speaks to just being able to figure it out. You're not sharp. Obviously, Riley Leonard had not gotten enough time with these guys and them with him and all those things. Losing Faison the way they did, hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. That is very dangerous. It is very dangerous. Please don't do the hip drop tackle, especially when in that situation like they did that it's just not a good thing. But a quick update on that though. Marcus Freeman did point out in the press conference they don't think it's going to be long term. Think he should recover quickly. I mean, I don't know. Marcus Freeman says things sometimes about injuries, but I kind of take him at his word just because he's on the sideline, things of that nature. Andrew Callan, this is such a deep cut from him. Greg, is it time to consider that Jadarian Price might be better than good? So I tweeted when Jadarian Price was a senior in high school for one of his clips, like one of his highlight clips. It's time to consider that he's better than good. This is such a deep cut from Andrew. I have to tip my cap to him for that. That is a full on, like, I am down with what you got going on, man. That is a good call by you. I also have to I have to put my hand up, Jamie. I have to put my hand up about something. Okay. On the preview show on Thursday, I talked about bad vibes with the kicking situation, specifically with Mitch Jeter. And you said, what are you talking about? That was what you said. You said, what are you talking about? And you know what? That's on me. That's a bad job by me. Mitch Jeter was great in his game. Yeah, he never misses. He never misses field goals. And I will say, like, the extra
point at the end, I was like,
was, that was. But the field goals that you got to make, he made them. Good signing by Notre Dame. So I got to put my hand up on that. What'd you think of the punter? What'd you think of Rendell?
First of all, extremely tough first game to be put in. Your first game of American football. It's like, hey, guess what? People are.
There's 105,000 people here.
105,000, probably yelling obscenities at him. You're worried about getting a pump block. Like, there's just so to me, there was obvious jitters early on. I mean, I don't think that's the best we're going to see of James Rendell this year. I will say that because of you think about it and you're like, oh, these aren't the greatest punts. Those aren't bad punts. The ones that go short and then roll like that. I don't think it's like 100% intentional, but it's not unintentional to do some of that.
It's not on purpose, like it's a happy accident kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they know it could happen.
And I will say the one that when they pinned him at the 15, I mean, he kind of got wound up by the A&M punter right after, which was just an insane kick after. But but that one to the 15 was a big time punt because what Notre Dame fan wasn't thinking about oh my gosh, Terry Bussey, is this going to be his moment? Is Zachariah Branch? I mean, he didn't have nothing the whole time. Great job on the kick coverage too. I will say this as well, but yeah, that was something where, and also too, that also could have been those. We don't know that they weren't if you don't think you got time to really get the hang time you need, get it off and get it short. So
get it out there.
So you're covered. He's not going to get it. If he catches one on the bounce and does it just some freak thing, then what are we going to do? But so, I mean, I didn't think it was wasn't an A+ game, but I mean, considering the circumstances, I thought I almost felt bad for the guy. I know he's like an adult, but still, it was, that had to have been extremely nerve-wracking. Which also too, this is another thing I want to point out in that game, in this game too, that Connor Wigman has never been in a game like this where it's guess what? You guys are down 7. Got to come down and make the thing. And even when they were down 7 earlier, they ran the ball. He wasn't making plays to do it. He wasn't the reason that they
ran the ball. There was a penalty.
Yeah. So it wasn't anything that he did, right? And where Leonard, he has been in these situations. And that matters. and that did ultimately matter in the game too. Like even some of the stuff were like the bad snaps where he just turned. Think of how many of those bad snaps he turned into positive plays. Like those could have been disastrous, and he didn't. I did want to point out because someone mentioned I was way up there earlier, so apologies.
I'll look for it.
But the person who mentioned about the ADOT, like the average depth of target.
Oh yeah, the ADOT.
Like, yeah. So what the reason for it? I mean,
it was Austin Bradley. I may not be able to find it because the chat, but it was Austin. I want to give him credit because it was his question.
But thanks for pointing it out, Austin, because I think
here you go. I found it.
Yeah. It is a fair thing to kind of bring up, and I know that people were talking about it, like why aren't they throwing deep? It's like, well, one, they literally did not want to take the chance of like, hey, we're gonna give you this extra half a second or second here, and then we're gonna get Riley Leonard killed, and it's gonna be a strip sack. So that was primarily the thing. There was so much quick game. They wanted to get it out as quick as possible all the time. And that was the right thing to do. Like, as much as anyone would have said, like, man, it would have been great if they were like been able to like take some more shots, whatever. But like, guess what? Against Northern Illinois, they'll take those shots. Like they're gonna do it. It's just you're not gonna in that game, in that atmosphere, you had to play it that way. And I don't think it was on the receivers. I will say that A&M does have they have good DBs. Like they have talent there, right? But I don't think it was where you're saying, well, this is who Riley Leonard did. He was like scared to throw the deep ball. No, they didn't take those shots. And the other thing is too is like if Mitchell Evans was playing in the game too, like do I think they would have taken like at least one shot down the seam with them? Yeah. I think they would have, like, so that goes into it too, right? Like that plays a part in it as well. And I mean, obviously the one to Great House was like a timely one and the right, and the right time to do that. And it resulted obviously got in first and goal. But I didn't think there were too many other times where it was the right moment. And the other thing is too, is that I don't think you could, with considering who Notre Dame had there too, if you were just going to say, hey, we're going to take a shot, we're going to max protect. I mean, I don't think that would have been a good deal. Like, I think they could have done some stuff where, obviously that boundary safety was like coming down,
crashing. Yes, like that was a one where you do the read and then you throw it over his head. Like that
read like a little sluggo kind of thing.
Like he was crashing. Any movement, any action that looked like it was going to be zone read to his side, like he was coming. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that. I mean, if you're going to look at it, if you're going to be nitpicky about it, yeah. I mean, I was waiting for that for a long time in the game. But I think with the flow of the game, they were just so worried about like this, we make one mistake here and whatever. And there was really like so many opportunities where there could have been that one mistake. So I get it. Like it was smart. And I think I thought it was just a really like just kind of like a smart game. And they were aggressive in different ways when they needed to be. And I think obviously too, you're going to run. They ran Riley Leonard a lot. Like, and I don't think Riley Leonard will maybe one more game in the regular season. He might run that much in a game, but I don't think you'll see him run as much as that as the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm surprised they didn't run him more, especially at the end of the game. That was what I was looking for. Like, I don't like these mesh handoffs when it's like they're sending the house. Like, just because then you have extra blocker if you run them like that. The Godfather's in the Mike Frank, the Godfather's in the chat. Jeter better than Yoon. Take that, Matt. Matt's gonna be very upset. Jamie, Irish Gordian Knott is here. He says, how about them Irish? I don't think you were in. This was on the Friday show. So IGK, I need you to tell us how it went. He smoked a boar's head. a literal boar head. He trapped it and he smoked it. And I want to know how it went. So please get in the chat and let us know how it went with the boar head.
By the way, ban Roosevelt Carney, who just comes in to troll. This guy I've never seen him come in to not troll. Like, get out of here, man. This guy's always here. Like, no, that was definitely not the case. And I mean, appreciate, I guess, that even in the times, this guy must be like a really hardcore Michigan fan. I thought he was like just a hateful Notre Dame fan or something. No, he's got to be some other fan from another team or something, because I don't know what this guy to come in and throw that out there. Like, get out of here.
Mike, this is just not it. But for the record, Matt and I were the most positive in the group ISD chat. Listen. Look, I'm not going to say what was said in the pregame, Jamie. Okay? Because that's private conversations. What I will say is your two hosts held the line on our predictions about this game. You got to believe in something. Am I right? You got to believe in something, yeah. and you got to stand firm on the things that you believe in, right? We believe Notre Dame was better. We believe they were the better team. They were going to come out and win the game, and so that's what we went with. And we didn't waver, Jamie, and that's for us. You got to believe in something. And you should believe in VSR Media and having a great media company. And VSR Media is that great media company. And you should believe in that. And VSR is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jamie, who is your big time player of the game? Now listen, it could be a unit. If you want to say offensive line, you go there. Who are you looking for? Who is your kind of player of the game for Notre Dame? You can go offense, defense too if you like. Who are you looking at?
I mean, you really could get, if you're going to give the game ball, you could probably give it to Al Golden. Yeah, like, which is, if you're really being totally honest, it's because like we're showering praise on the offense because they did what they needed to do, and obviously they ran the ball and they did, but like, let's not act like it was like anywhere close to what the defense did in the game. The defense was outstanding, as per usual, right?
Yes, and they're good.
So, but that aside, I will say you could easily give it to the offensive line, but I'm going to give it to Jeremiah Love. One, he closed it out, in a big way. But there was a lot of times too where even on some of those runs where he turned getting stuffed into like 3 yards. And that was very much like in a different way than Audric Estime would, but in his own way because of like his lateral movement and all that. Like, that was huge. So I think that, I mean, you could give it to him and Price, even if you just say the one run.
Yeah.
Because yes, it was an ideal thing, but Torian York is their best linebacker. This guy's considered like one of the top linebackers in the SEC. Mm-hmm. He's their dude. He's how many sophomores are team captains?
Yes.
Doesn't happen very often. He undressed him. And that was the difference between him scoring or not. Like, you got to go, you got a guy in space. Who was essentially like almost a Tavon Coney level of like consistency of a tackler, Torian York. And then he is, as you know, Jimmy Kahn said in the program, he was hugging air. Like it was nothing. So props to those guys. So I mean, I'll give it to those guys, but I mean, when you win a game like this, you could give it to so many people. And the only reason I wouldn't even name a singular person on defense, because I just really think it was like such a collective effort.
I'm going offensive line. That's amazing. They ran for 190 yards, Jamie. They ran for 190 yards in this game. All anyone talked about was 6 starts, true freshman. Anthony Knapp's going to get melted.
Yeah.
Texas A&M fans were putting up memes. Anthony Knapp, RIP. You know, like everyone said when Jagusaw got hurt, it was everyone's going to hear Nick Scorton's name. And you know what? Like Nick Scorton's had some moments in this game. I don't want to.
Yeah, he's a good player.
I don't want to act like he didn't do anything. He did not destroy this game. He did not. Neither of the Turners or the Shamars did. Shamar Turner or Shamar Stewart. Like they've all had moments. They did not tear apart this game. They just didn't. And they held their own. Emil Wagner he just had a really good game for his first start. I thought Billy Strouth had a good game. Ashton Craig beyond the snaps. You know, like that's something that you can't really predict, but like he got over it. So it's you know, it is what it is. I just think you got to give it. To me, you got to give it to the offensive line. I mean, they won Notre Dame the game in just the way that they gave them a chance on offense. They played well enough to the point where it was about, you know, the skill guys figuring it out and Riley Leonard figuring it out. That they gave those players a chance to have a performance, and they did, and in turn they had a performance. And I think like if you know, you shouted out Al Golden, Joe Rudolph, that's great job by you here. I mean, this is one of the better preparation jobs for a unit that is as important as the offensive line is, just as we've seen. I mean, just a very, very good job by Joe Rudolph. He deserves all the flowers. Mike Frank says, I will say Love and Price have become so much better as running backs than when they arrived. It's amazing how much Dealin has helped both players. Dealin, elite coach. It's interesting they don't want to play Price on third down. I will say this. Devin Ford, you know, look, the guy does what they ask him to do. People don't want him in there, but he's doing his job, and he's stuck around. And thank goodness he did, because Jabron Payne, you know, hurt himself when he's out, right? That would be Jabron Payne. But he stuck around for Notre Dame, and that's great for him. Rajon is asking, what time is the show tomorrow morning? I'm going to do a morning after recap a little bit later. I'm going to do 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific time. A little bit later. I don't have to wake up as early, and that's nice. Ned H asks, how much improvement do you foresee for this offensive line? So this is something that I'm going to be monitoring in the next couple games, Jamie, is I always think back to the 2018 game against Michigan. I felt like there were some parallels here, except Notre Dame was, you know, at home for that one. They're on the road here, but that was a new offensive line against a very, very good defense. That Michigan defense was very, very good. And they struggled at times, but they also came up with a performance that allowed Notre Dame to win the game, right? But in the next couple of weeks after that, it was struggle bus. And it was struggle bus against Ball State. They didn't run the ball very well against that team. And then against Vanderbilt, that was kind of a struggle bus on offense too. The quarterback had something to do with that, right? That you know, Brandon Wimbush, he was not great in that game. So it's not like it's an exact parallel, but we saw, I don't want to say regression. It was more of a lack of it wasn't a linear trajectory, right? Like it was a little shaky.
Also remember, Dexter Williams was not available.
Not available. So it's like, you know, you're rolling with Jafar Armstrong in that one, and Tony Jones Jr. I'll take Jeremiah Love and Jordanian Price if I may.
I think,
So, but what to the question, how much improvement do you see for the O-line? Do you feel like it's going to be a little bit rocky? It's not like Notre Dame, in my opinion, it's Notre Dame. It's not like they're done with this game and it's all smooth sailing.
Oh yeah. It never goes. It never goes all the way like this. There's going to be some, some
peaks and
bumps in the road.
valleys.
It's peaks and valleys. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. And guess what? They're going to go and they're going to play Louisville, and they got some dudes, and they're going to have to be better than they were against Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. That's going to have to be a thing too. And you're going to have moments too, even against teams that you don't think have great D lines, that they're going to have some moments. Like, that's part of it. But I think that over the course of the season, if they're starting right here, they're going to end up, here or whatever, but it's not going to be like just boom, boom, boom the whole way. It just won't. It never does that. And just to answer Rajon's question, A&M had the best D line they're going to play all year. So from that perspective, they passed a huge test.
Yeah.
I will say too, whatever, people are dunking on Florida State pretty hard, and hey, go for it. They have just horrible fans on Twitter and stuff, so please go ahead and dunk on them if you like. But that defensive line will they're going to be pretty good. They're going to be better. I don't know if the Pete Thamel saying somebody told them they were going to be the best in the nation. No, but they're going to be really good.
Someone might have told them that, doesn't mean that's a right, but someone might have said.
And the other thing is too, is that they have guys in there, they have 3 new starters on their D line that are considered studs, but they don't have that experience yet. So it's they're probably going to get better too, so that's it. It all goes along with it. Notre Dame will have some challenges, but certainly from just the whole circumstance of this, this was easily the toughest one that they'll face. Considering where you start from. And it was so fitting that, Pendleton down block, Knapp gets to the next level, seals that play for Love to hit it. That was just perfect. That was everything. That's something that if from, the walk-ons to, the 6-year seniors and to everybody in between, the captains on the team, everyone, when they're watching back film on that, everyone's going to have a smile on their face seeing that.
That's the type of thing that, builds programs, right? The confidence that they are going to get from this, like you said, it's not going to be linear, right? There's going to be peaks and valleys, but just the self-confidence and the belief that we went and did it. Everyone picked against them. Nationally, everyone's talking about how they're just going to get crushed, just destroyed. Everyone's going to know Nick scored, right? And then they went and performed. And the confidence that comes with is just, it's immeasurable, right? And it's kind of it kind of reminds me of Notre Dame's defensive backfield against Ohio State in 2022, when everyone was going into that game and they're just going to get worked. And Notre Dame ended up losing that game, but they didn't. They hung in there and they had a good performance, right? And that, look where Notre Dame's defensive backfield is now, right? That's how you kind of build something there. Matt Regili, thanks for the post-game show, boys, and thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate that, Jamie. Jared May, thank you for the super chat again. Thanks for putting this on. Go Irish. We are here every week after games. We are going to be here talking about what happened, win, lose, or draw. Austin Bradley says it's 12-0 more likely than 11-1. Well, They're 1-0. So I think 11-1 is still it.
Yeah, probably.
I predicted. I said they would go 11-1. I said they would go 11-1, and I predicted them to win this game. So I don't want to completely knee jerk it.
I will say, based on what the computers say in terms of like what like SP Plus says, what
they will
those
be
Kelly Ford ratings,
much more likely to go.
Like this was the game. This was the only game that was considered. This is 50%. This was the only game that was 50% or less for Notre Dame all season, and like 9 of the next 11 are considered like 85% and up. Yeah. Well, can you lose those games? Yeah, you can still lose those games. Like that can happen. And obviously, like I think, USC is considered like a 60 something percent. Like that's what it is. And frankly, we're going to find out a lot about USC tomorrow, but still, we won't know what USC is until later on. So we'll see. But I don't think it's like totally hyperbolic to say like this sets up Notre Dame to go 12-0 and be in the playoff, because that's kind of what the schedule works out as, right? Like, there'll be some other tests, but this was easily the toughest true road game that they were going to play. They only play 2 more true road games the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Purdue in 2 weeks, and then USC to close out the season. They obviously go to Atlanta, but it's not at Georgia Tech, so that's not like a true road game. And they play Army in New York and stuff too. But it's
Laura and Jeff McQuaid, thanks to both of you for being here. I assume it's just one person, but how will the chemistry improve between Leonard and the wide receivers? This is a good question, because I think this is the area, like aside from the offensive line, like this is the area in the next couple 2-3 weeks that I think is going to see the biggest jump, because I feel like there's so much more available to them. Like I feel like there's so much more on the table for this group. And I feel like as they move on through the season, this is that's the spot where I feel like I think we're going to see a pretty big jump in efficiency and how it looks, the operation, how that operation is looking. I feel like that's going to be a big one to track for Notre Dame fans. What do you think about that?
I mean, considering, I would say like they really can only go up in a lot of ways. But I do want to give, because maybe we haven't given Riley Leonard enough credit, or we're only kind of talking about some of the stuff he's done with his legs. But like, he made a lot of throws that Wigman didn't make. Like in terms of just like hitting the guy in the flat on an out, like and having being able to like Jaden Greathouse on that one play, just being able to like turn it up for first down. Like those were throws that Wigman missed. Like, and he did it.
Hitting that back shoulder to Collins.
Hitting that back shoulder. Yes, exactly. Right. He had, considering too, when you look at kind of how Collins did there, just in general, how their chemistry on a lot of those was pretty good. Like, that one really nice comeback, which was like, that was a beauty. So I think with the rest of the guys, it's bound to go up. And also too, like, you're going to have, I don't know what, like, we'll see what the plays are in terms of how many guys played the snaps, and we'll watch it over again and all that kind of stuff too. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be separation between some guys, and then that does part of it too. Like that helps figure it out. Yeah. And Evans, like being available, that helps too, so. And like,
Leonard's got to get in the fire with the guys.
Flanagan, nice game though.
He did have a nice game. Look, we like him. We like him a lot. You got to get in the fire with your guys and figure it out that way, right? And I don't want to say the cream always rises to the top, but like the the execution level always just kind of gets better there. Matt Regali, one more quick thing about the penalties. How one-sided were the penalty yards? Seems to me we had way more than they did. Well, they did. That's true. Notre Dame had about 100. Look, some of these are just like jumping off sides, not good. I thought the couple of the holdings was
a couple of them are pretty questionable.
Questionable, especially when they're not calling them the other way. You know, like look at just be consistent. Just be consistent. That's all we're asking for all the time. Just like if you're not calling holding the other way, then you can't keep calling multiple holds on just one side. But for the most part, like just like, you know, the ref stuff in this game, it's just all like a consistency thing, right? You're calling it one way on this side, you're not calling it the other way on the other side. But look, I mean, they let the Bo Collins thing go, which is like it's a pretty big one. Like it's a pretty big one to kind of overlook.
Could have been. I mean, that could have been the game.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was
they
like
went down and scored.
I mean, really, like everybody's, you know, puppy dogs and ice cream feeling great after this game. But I mean, he will get destroyed in film. And he should. It was a really dumb. It was I love the fire. Love it. Love the fire. But there's a time and a place, and that was not the time and the place.
What I will say is usually if they let that go, like it makes me think there was something going on that entire game.
They had to have been going at it.
They had to have been, because honestly, he wouldn't even have done it
after that play too.
Yes, he wouldn't even have done it. Yeah. They had to have been. They had to have been going at it, and sometimes they kind of let that stuff go.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know where it is. We are going to go live. I will be live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time doing a morning after recap show. All the snap count numbers come out. Everyone just kind of – I always like to have a night to think about the game, or have a night, lay in bed, think about the game, wake up. I want to talk about it again. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to be on here talking about the game. We'll go over stats. And it's very much an interactive, tell me what you think. We'll put it up in the chat, and we'll just talk to each other, basically. It's kind of a fun hangout what I've been doing for the last 2 years. So it's a really good time. Notre Dame wins 23-13. They are very well set up for the rest of the season. I think fans have a lot to be excited about going into next week as well. So have a good night, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.